Manchester City are pushing to sign Ayoub Buadi, one of the best talents in Europe in his position. Man City are pushing. Manchester City are going all in for him. There are negotiations ongoing. Important to understand if it's going to be for this summer or on summer 2027. Man City will decide also based on the future of Rodri, but for sure keep an eye on Ayoub Buadi because City are going very strong on club and player side.
Manchester City appear to be closing in on another major piece of their midfield rebuild, with Lille wonderkid Ayoub Buadi set to become the latest addition to Enzo Maresca's squad. The move comes at a crucial moment for City, with the club preparing for significant changes in the middle of the pitch and with one of their biggest departures seemingly helping to accelerate the process of bringing in fresh talent. According to the latest update from Fabrizio Romano, Manchester City are now expected to complete their move for Bouaddi with the highly rated Lille midfielder set to join the club this summer. The most important detail surrounding the proposed transfer is that City are not expected to send the 18-year-old back to Lille on loan for the 2026-27 campaign. Instead, Bouaddi is expected to remain with Maresca's first-team squad and begin his Manchester City career immediately. That decision could prove extremely important for City because the club are not simply signing Bouaddi as a long-term investment who will spend another season developing elsewhere. The plan appears to be for the teenager to become part of the first-team midfield group straight away, giving Maresca another option in an area of the pitch that is undergoing a major transformation. The timing of the deal is also significant. Manchester City's midfield has reached a point where change is unavoidable, and the expected departure of Rodri has made that situation even more urgent. Rodri has been one of the defining players of City's modern era, providing control, intelligence, defensive security, and exceptional passing ability from the base of midfield. Replacing everything he offers with one player would be almost impossible, which is why City appear to be approaching the rebuild through several different profiles. Bouaddi could become one of those profiles. The French-born midfielder has developed a reputation as one of the most exciting young talents to emerge from Lille. Despite his age, he has already shown an impressive level of maturity, particularly when operating in deeper midfield positions. His ability to receive the ball under pressure, move possession forward and understand the defensive responsibilities of the position has made him an attractive option for clubs looking for a midfielder who can develop into a major first-team player. For Manchester City, the attraction goes beyond potential. Bouaddi fits the kind of profile that can give Maresca tactical flexibility while also providing the club with a player who can grow into a central role over the coming seasons. The expected departure of Rodri has created a massive hole, but City do not necessarily need to find another player who performs exactly the same job. Modern midfield systems are built around combinations, rotations, and complementary qualities. Rather than asking one player to replicate Rodri's entire influence, Maresca can build a midfield in which different players contribute different elements. This is where Bouaddi could become particularly valuable. The teenager's ability to operate as a holding midfielder gives City an option at the base of midfield, while his technical quality could allow him to participate in possession rather than simply sit in front of the defence. His development under Maresca could therefore be carefully managed while still giving him meaningful opportunities to contribute. One of the most interesting possibilities is the potential partnership between Bouaddi and Elliot Anderson. City have already been working on reshaping their midfield, and the combination of Anderson's physicality, energy and ability to cover ground with Bouaddi's composure and positional intelligence could give Maresca a very different midfield platform. Anderson can bring intensity, ball carrying and defensive work, while Bouaddi could potentially provide greater control from deeper areas. That combination would allow City to construct a midfield that is less dependent on one player and more capable of adapting to different opponents. It is important, however, not to place too much pressure on Bouaddi immediately. He is still only 18 years old, and replacing a player of Rodri's stature is an enormous challenge for anyone, let alone a teenager arriving from another league. City will have to protect his development while also giving him enough exposure to first-team football. The decision not to loan him back to Lille suggests that the club believe he is ready to develop within their own environment. That is a significant vote of confidence. Manchester City have the infrastructure, coaching staff and competitive environment required to develop young midfielders, but the pressure surrounding the position will be intense. Every performance will naturally be compared with what City previously received from Rodri, and that is something Maresca will have to manage carefully. The key could be expectations. Bouaddi does not need to become Rodri overnight. He needs to become Bouaddi. If City can give him the freedom to develop his own game while surrounding him with experienced players, his adaptation could be much smoother. The presence of established midfielders and experienced defenders can give a young player the platform to learn without being responsible for solving every problem immediately. Maresca's tactical approach could also be ideal for Bouaddi's development. A possession-based system requires midfielders to understand space, positioning and passing angles, and those are areas where Bouaddi's profile could become particularly useful. Rather than simply asking him to win tackles and protect the defence, Maresca can gradually teach him how to control the rhythm of matches. That could ultimately become one of his biggest strengths. City's midfield rebuild is therefore not simply about replacing names on a team sheet, it is about creating a new structure. The departure of Rodri alongside other midfield changes means that City must determine what their central areas will look like for the next several seasons. The arrival of Bouaddi would represent a clear commitment to youth within that rebuild. At just 18, he has plenty of time to improve physically, tactically and technically. City will know that his best football may not come immediately. The objective is to develop a midfielder capable of becoming a long-term starter, rather than expecting him to solve every problem from his first appearance. That long-term thinking could prove crucial. Manchester City have spent years competing at the highest level, and the club cannot afford to allow one major departure to destabilise the entire squad. The midfield must continue to function even after key players leave, and that means recruitment has to happen before problems become crises. Bouaddi's expected arrival is therefore part of a wider strategy. The club have already been active in reshaping their midfield, with Tijani Reinders and Rodri both heading towards major changes in their futures. While those moves represent different sides of the transfer equation, together they demonstrate just how dramatically City's midfield is changing. Reinders provides another example of the type of midfielder City are targeting: technically gifted, intelligent in possession and capable of contributing in several areas. Bouaddi, meanwhile, offers youth, positional discipline and enormous developmental potential. Anderson adds another dimension. Together, those profiles could allow Maresca to build a midfield that is more varied than before. Instead of relying heavily on one controlling midfielder, City could have several players capable of influencing matches in different ways. That is especially important in a season where City will likely have to deal with a demanding schedule across multiple competitions. The Premier League requires consistency, while European competition demands tactical flexibility. Cup matches create additional rotation requirements. A squad with only one trusted defensive midfielder can quickly become vulnerable when injuries, suspensions or fatigue arrive. Bouaddi's arrival could help reduce that vulnerability. His immediate integration into the squad would also give Maresca the opportunity to understand exactly where he fits best. He could initially be used in selected matches, particularly when City need greater control in possession, before gradually being trusted with more demanding responsibilities. There is also the possibility that Bouaddi could play alongside another holding midfielder rather than operating alone. Such a system could help him adjust to the physical and tactical demands of English football. By sharing defensive responsibilities, he would have greater freedom to concentrate on his passing, positioning and decision-making. That could accelerate his development. The Premier League is a completely different environment from League One, and City will understand that adaptation cannot be rushed. The speed of the game, physical intensity and relentless pressure can expose young midfielders quickly. But being surrounded by technically excellent teammates can make that transition easier. Bouaddi's technical foundation gives him a strong starting point. His ability to operate in tight spaces is particularly valuable for a Manchester City team that often faces opponents sitting deep. In those situations, midfielders must be able to receive the ball under pressure and find solutions when passing lanes appear limited. A player who can remain calm in those moments can become extremely important. City also need midfielders who can contribute when the team loses possession. The modern game demands immediate reactions after turnovers, and a holding midfielder must understand when to press, when to recover, and when to protect the central defensive zone. Those tactical details will be an important part of Bouaddi's education. Maresca will therefore have a major role to play in his development. The manager cannot simply throw Bouaddi into the team and expect him to reproduce the performances of a world-class midfielder. Instead, the coaching staff will need to gradually increase his responsibilities while giving him a clear understanding of his role. If that process works, City could eventually have one of Europe's most exciting young midfielders. The financial aspect of the transfer is also important, although the long-term footballing value could prove far more significant. Young midfielders with Bouaddi's potential are becoming increasingly difficult to acquire, particularly once major European clubs identify them as future stars. By moving now, City appear to be attempting to secure his development before his value rises even further. That fits with the club's wider recruitment strategy. Manchester City have increasingly looked to combine established stars with younger players capable of becoming important figures in the future. Bouaddi represents the second part of that equation. He may not arrive with the same expectations as an established superstar, but his ceiling could make the investment extremely valuable. The biggest challenge will be balancing immediate expectations with long-term development. City supporters will naturally want to see the midfield remain competitive after Rodri's departure. That means Bouaddi will inevitably attract attention from the moment he arrives. Every misplaced pass could be analysed, while every strong performance could create enormous excitement. The club will need to keep perspective. At 18, Bouaddi should be judged on his development rather than being expected to carry the midfield. His progression will probably come in stages. There may be excellent performances followed by difficult games, and there may be periods when he spends more time on the bench. That would not necessarily represent a problem. In fact, controlled rotation could be exactly what he needs. The possibility of pairing him with Elliot Anderson is particularly intriguing because it could provide a balance between youth and physical presence. Anderson can help cover large areas of the pitch, while Bouaddi can focus on maintaining structure and helping City progress possession. That partnership would still require time to develop, but the potential is obvious. Maresca could also rotate the midfield depending on the opponent. Against teams that press aggressively, Bouaddi's composure could be valuable. Against opponents who rely heavily on transitions, his defensive positioning could become more important. Against low blocks, his passing range and ability to move the ball quickly could help City increase the tempo. This tactical flexibility would make his arrival even more useful. There is another reason why the transfer makes sense: succession planning. Manchester City cannot wait until a legendary player has completely left the squad before beginning to think about his replacement. The best clubs identify the next generation early and allow them to develop alongside established players. Bouaddi appears to be part of that philosophy. Rodri's expected move to Barcelona has made the need for succession planning more visible, but the process is bigger than one transfer. City are effectively preparing their midfield for the next era. That era could be built around players such as Anderson and Bouaddi. The club's recruitment department, led by Hugo Viana, now has the responsibility of making sure the rebuild does not stop with one signing. If Bouaddi arrives as expected, City will still need to assess the rest of the midfield and determine whether additional reinforcement is necessary. The transfer window is approaching its final stages, and that increases the urgency. With limited time remaining, every departure and arrival can have a direct impact on the next move. Rodri's expected exit appears to have created the space for City to accelerate their plans, while Bouaddi's imminent arrival could give Maresca another important piece to work with. The dominoes are beginning to fall. For City, the objective is clear: refresh the midfield without weakening their ability to compete immediately. That will not be easy. Rodri's influence over City's football has been enormous, and no single transfer can completely replace it. The club must instead spread that responsibility across the team. Defensive midfielders, central midfielders, fullbacks, and even attacking players may all have to contribute differently. Bouaddi can be one part of that solution. His arrival would also send an important message about the direction of the club. Manchester City are not simply looking for short-term replacements. They are investing in players who can define the next generation of the team. For an 18-year-old midfielder, joining City at this stage of his career could be a transformational opportunity. He will have access to elite facilities, elite teammates, and a manager who can help him understand the tactical demands of top-level football. More importantly, he will have the chance to compete for a place rather than spending another season waiting for his opportunity elsewhere. That could be decisive in his development. If Bouaddi adapts quickly, City could have a player capable of becoming a regular starter much sooner than expected. If his development takes longer, the club still have the depth to allow him time. Either way, the signing represents a calculated investment. Manchester City's midfield is entering a new chapter, and Ayoub Buadi could be one of the first major figures in that new era. His arrival would not erase the impact of Rodri, nor should it be presented as a direct one-for-one replacement. Instead, Buadi could become part of a new midfield identity, one built around technical quality, tactical intelligence, physical energy, energy and long-term development, the potential partnership with Elliot Anderson could be particularly important. Both players are young, ambitious and capable of developing alongside one another. If Maresca can establish the right tactical structure around them, City could eventually possess a midfield capable of competing at the highest level for years. That is the real attraction of the Bouaddi deal. It is not simply about what the teenager can offer Manchester City this season. It is about what he could become over the next 5 or 10 years. The expected completion of the transfer therefore comes at a crucial moment. Rodri's imminent departure has forced City to confront the end of one midfield era, while Bouaddi's arrival could mark the beginning of another. For Maresca, the challenge now is to turn that potential into performance. For Bouaddi, the opportunity is enormous, and for Manchester City, the message is equally clear. The midfield rebuild has begun, and Ayoub Buadi could be one of the most important pieces of the next generation. The sooner the deal is completed, the sooner City can begin integrating him into the squad and moving forward with the rest of their recruitment plans. The club cannot afford to stand still. With major changes already taking place, the priority must be to build a midfield capable of competing immediately while also creating the foundation for the future. Bouaddi could provide exactly that balance. At only 18, he still has a long road ahead of him, but Manchester City appear convinced that he has the qualities required to travel it at the highest level. His move from Lille would represent another major step in the club's transformation, and potentially one of the most significant investments in the next generation of their midfield. The dominoes are falling, and City's new midfield is beginning to take shape.